in this episode, the Golf starts handling better. Like I said, in this episode, we're going to be changing the dampers and the top mounts. In the previous episode, we drove the Golf back to Dorset, nearly 100 miles, on a completely destroyed damper. It had absolutely no fluid left in it. I'll show you that in a minute when we get the car up in the air. But that wasn't a fun drive. Go check the link, watch that video, mildly entertaining. And well, that brings us on to this episode. We are going to be fitting dampers, or shock absorbers, whichever way you call them, and new top mounts, because it's rude to not change them while we're in there. We're not changing springs, partly because I'm poor in between jobs at the moment, and this is just getting the minimum of what it wants to get back on the road. I am a mechanic, so I am changing both sides of the suspension at the same time. I've only got one unboxed at the moment, but we'll show you that. Don't believe anyone, ever. Don't believe them. If they say, only change one side of your suspension at once, don't. It's a false economy. Bad things will happen. Ran over. So once we've got these bits fitted, it will be ready to press into daily duties, and then we can take the rowdy off the road, do some clutch and some bigger bits on it. So subscribe for them videos. But for now, let's get cracking. Let's get the car in the air. Now I'm going to say, before you jack it up, make sure either the jack or the car can move, because we're going to be dragging it to lift the jack up. In this case, we're on gravel, which sucks for jacking cars up, but that's all we've got, so handbrake off. Not gonna lie, I like it a bit higher. Just about enough room to work under there, so I ain't gonna faff about anymore. Get some wheels off, crack on. 17mm on your breaker bar, because VW nuts, and use your lock and wheel nut key if you got one. Oh, and before you get to this point, crack your wheels off on the floor, because it's a lot harder once they're spinning. Safety first, wheels under the car. I like to live more than I care about stretching my rims. So here we've got the offending damper, or shock absorber, whatever you call them. As you can see, all around here is covered in the old fluid. You can see it leaking out around here and under the dust cover where it's all been coming out from. That is why we have got spring on this side, no damping or no shock absorbing, which means the car just bounces. So to swap it out, we're going 2 bolts down the bottom. We are unclipping all of our ABS wires, our brake line from the back of it. We're going to pull the hub downwards, and then we're going to go jump up top under the bonnet to finish it off. So we got the hub off, 2 bolts undone, unclipped the ABS wires and unattached it so it's right out the way. We've disconnected the brake line from the back of the strut, and now we're going to have to go up into the engine bay to have a look in there for the top. So let's try and get some light over here. Up top in the engine bay, we've got the top mount. Come on, focus. That's better. We've got the top mount. We've got a 22mm nut on an offset spanner. And 7mm hex bit. So let's get cracking. So we got it out the car. In the end, instead of the 7mm hex bit that started spinning, hammered a Torx T50 in there because that was the first size that would fit. So we got the 2 units side by side. Obviously we're going to have to change the spring over, so we're going to have to get the spring off the old one and the dust cover off the old one. And we've got a new top mount that we're going to be using, so we'll get that on. Next we'll go up on the bench and get some spring compressors out. Right, so we're up on the bench. We now need to take the spring off, and to do that we're going to have to compress the spring with the spring compressors and then get onto this lovely little nut that we haven't got any light on. And then we got to get onto this 21mm nut, and using the same technique as before, I'm going to hold the Torx bit and then undo the nut. Now to get in there, I couldn't fit one of my offset spanners in there, so as an alternative we've got a 21mm socket which does fit on there, but obviously I need to get access to the Torx bit. So that'll be how we'll roll on this one. So we're all set up and good to go. Tighten down my little safety straps because we might as well use them. And let's tighten up the spring compressor. So I'll keep it quick because I hate it when the spring's under compression. That's the time it's going to go off, if it will. Just enough room that the spring isn't pushing up on the top mount anymore. Let's undo the nut. Well, we got it apart. It wasn't ideal in the end. I did resort to using vice grips on the middle of the shaft because I'm not reusing these dampers because they are ruined anyway. But obviously, if you're going to refit the dampers, don't ever grip the shaft with vice grips or any kind of grips or anything other than the nut at the top, which always causes you problems when they round off up here. But that's the name of the game. Dampers literally are going to start bursting steels, pissing out fluid as soon as you do this. Obviously mine already have, so there's no point worrying about them. But while we've got it apart, let's start from the bottom. Got the mounting for the hub. The bottom of the spring mounts into your nice little recess in there. Coming up, sitting on the top of the damper shaft, is your bump stop. The dust cover, your dust boot. The spring obviously sits on top of all of this with a little spring cup in the top of the spring, so it mounts in nicely. After this, you have your bearing and the top mount all held onto the damper by your little top nut. And then securing all of that to the car, we bolt the top mount metal piece and the nut that holds the whole spring damper assembly in the car. So let's get the new one out and let's stick it back together. So this is what's broken. Should not be able to pull the damper at that speed. It should be putting up a load more resistance. Now this is opposed to the new one. Obviously I made more sound effects for that one, but look, there is way more resistance, which is what we want from dampers. Look how good that looks. Ready to throw it back on the car. Let's roll. Top mount's in all nice. Let's get the hub back together now.
Let's get scratching.
So it's all in. Literally ready to throw the wheels on and do the other side. Hopefully there won't be any other surprises over this side. it's all looking fairly reasonable. I mean, it is a bit rusty and it will do with some WD-40 on the old threads. And yes, the spring is in a bit of a state this side, so we'll have to assess that as we go, but largely it's looking pretty good. Halfway to getting her back driving nice again. So, we ran out of light yesterday, got stuck on the second side because the top mount was just seized, its bolt, and the actual damper bit is completely seized together. Then it split, rather than just rounding out the Allen key inside, completely split. Took some photos, chucked them in over here or over there or something like that. And we called it a day. We ran out of light because today we are going to use a bit of heat on the nut and try the world's weakest impact gun on it, just hoping that some of the impacts will free it off. Fingers crossed. So there we go. Victory! I can't touch the nut because it's hot. Let's pull the strut out. As you can see, a fight was had. And yes, you should never put vice grips or any grips on your damper. I don't know how many times I've said that in this video. However, we are not reusing these old ones, so I don't really give a crap. And it actually split on me. It actually split. Anyway, we're over that. Let's get the spring off it. Let's throw it onto the new damper and chuck it back on the car. We're in the top. Let's get the bottom done, and we can go for a spin. We're back on the ground. Left the lock and wheel nut to go in last because I hate over talking them. Speaking about talks, always talk up your wheels for added safety and wheels not coming off. Yeah, I'm gonna talk them up and then take her for a test drive. Oh yeah. So, test drive time. Sunny day in Dorset, so rude not to have the top down. What are we hoping to achieve? Well, I want a lack of bouncing from side to side of the car. I'd also like there to be no extra knocks and bangs that we've caused by fucking around with both our front suspension units. Let's get out to some nice country roads, hit some potholes, hit some speed bumps, see what I want. It's a good day. So, test drive went well, no knocks and bangs, we got suspension doing suspension-y things, we got not as much bounce as we used to have because we got spring and damper now. Woohoo! However, it still handles kind of crap. Definitely better, but it still seems to want to track through the lines on the road and starting to get a little bit, depending on what kind of bumps there are and how in quick succession they are after each other, you get a little bit of vibration coming through to the steering wheel, so gonna have to investigate that a little bit further. Definitely wants to get tracked, definitely wants new tyres on it, but as you can see, I've chucked it up in the air, back on stands again, and we checked for play in there. Haven't got any play in any of the track rod ends, any of your ball joints, steering rack, etc, etc, so it's good to go for now. It's not quite race car, it's a daily without pushing on your roundabouts and your nice high speed corners. It will try and understeer, so I can't race it like a race car, but it's a daily, we're good to go. I think next I'm going to clear it out and clean it up and just generally get it ready for daily duties. And today we're collecting some more parts for the Rowdy. That's getting a single mass flywheel and a new clutch on it. Make sure you subscribe for them videos. It's getting nice and exciting here on the channel. Until next time, peace.